Hello, everybody. Good morning and good evening to wherever you are in the world. My name is Jacqueline Durakis, and I'm the Expeditions Manager for EarthEcho International. We are so excited to have classrooms all over the globe joining us today to learn about marine mammals and plastic. So before we get started with our live event today, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about some housekeeping. So we love participation from everybody watching at home, and you can participate by asking questions. If you're watching on YouTube, you can use the chat space directly below the viewer. And if you're watching on our EarthEcho website, you can use the Google form that is located underneath your viewer. Feel free to submit questions now and at any time during the virtual field trip. We will be answering those questions as we go along. We have time set aside in the middle and at the end of the presentation for questions. Now, this live event is part of our 2018 expedition, PlasticSeas. This expedition happened last October in Melbourne, Australia. And the EarthEcho team, led by our founder, Phillip Jr., brought educators to the front line of Australia's unique ecosystems to look at the impact of litter and microplastics on the organisms that call Australia home. Our PlasticSeas resources include 4 exciting expedition videos hosted by Phillip, highlighting our plastic journey. We also have STEM career close-ups with the experts we met in Australia, including Dr. Kate, who you will all get to meet today. And we also have a Youth in Action video series that highlight the amazing youth working in their communities to fight ocean plastic, which also features Haley, who you will get to meet later today as well. And last but not least, the 25 teachers that joined us on PlasticSeas are now Expedition Fellows, and they have worked together to make STEM lessons come to life for teachers around the world. And these lessons include learning about a product's life cycle, to learning what a nurdle is, and a STEM design challenge to capture nurdles, and lots more. So if you head to our website after the event, you can download all of these resources for free, thanks to our presenting sponsor, the Northrop Grumman Foundation. So now, without further ado, we will have Miss Singh's class joining us from Johns Hopkins College in Mandurah, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dr. Kate and let her take it away. Here you go, Dr. Kate.
Hi everybody, and welcome to our virtual field trip. It's an absolute pleasure to be live streaming. It's the first time I've done this, and it was an absolute pleasure to be involved with the EarthEcho International PlasticSeas expedition. And it's great to be seeing everybody and have you join us on this journey. So I am Dr. Kate Charlton-Rob and the founding director and head of research at the Marine Mammal Foundation. So the Marine Mammal Foundation is an organisation here based in Melbourne, and we have a mission, a very big mission, to undertake applied research and conservation and education. So we conduct applied research on marine mammals in coastal Victoria and southern Australia, in particular the dolphins and the seals, and then when the whales migrate. But we also believe that research is not just great for research's sake, but it's also about communicating that and talking about the issues and fostering a connection with the amazing marine mammals that we have here in the world. And so we also have a number of outreach programs and then interactive and innovative education programs. So I'll skip on to a little bit about me as just to introduce myself a little bit more. So I undertook a Bachelor of Science degree at Monash University, and my first career was actually in photography and design, and I started diving, and I absolutely loved being under the water, and I found that place where I really fit and I felt most comfortable, but I wanted to learn more about the environment and the marine world. And so I stopped that career and I went back and studied Bachelor of Science at Monash University, and then in second year I got a lecture about using genetics for cryptic species, and of course dolphins are one of those cryptic species that spend most of their time under the water. And I went on to do my honours degree and then all the way through to a PhD. Now, I lectured at Monash University for a little while, and then in 2013 I founded the Marine Mammal Foundation so that I could continue doing my research, but I could also give the opportunities to others to join in the research and get that out into the public space and into schools and out into festivals. I'm also the current president for the Australian Marine Sciences Association in Victoria, and a research fellow with a number of organisations. So I wear a lot of different hats, and it keeps me super busy. So for those that are joining us from not Australia or from not Victoria, we are in Australia. You can, when we go on to the next slide there, we can see the map of Australia there, and then right down the bottom in southern and southeastern Australia is Victoria, and then you can see the little dot there, that's Melbourne. So that's where we're based, and we're very blessed down here in Victoria because it's a high level. We've got high level of endemism. It's such a unique, cool, temperate environment. We have a lot of we've got a lot going on down here, and in particular, we have a lot of questions about the marine mammals being the top water predators in the area, which is obviously our focus. So moving on to the next thing, what is a marine mammal? So we have numerous different marine mammal types. So if we go down to the next slide there, we have marine mammals are seals, dolphins, whales, but there are also dugongs and manatees. But in particular down here, we're going to be talking about, so the seals here, we've got a couple of different types of seals, so numerous different species of seals, 20 all up, and they're split into, if we can just go to the next slide there. They're split into 20 different species, but into true and eared seals, so otarids and eared seals and phocids. So you can see in the middle there, we've got our Australian fur seals. Not sure, is the slide switching over?
Yes, we can see the seals.
Okay, cool. On my one, it's still showing the map. So we've got the seals there, and so we're in the middle there, we've got our Australian fur seals, and you can see their little ears on the side. Now on the other side, I was actually very blessed this and last year to go down to Antarctica, switch my Australian summer up for a summer in Antarctica, which is amazing. So in that photo we have the phocids, so we have the true seals that don't have those external ears, with a crab eater seal and an amazing leopard seal. We also have a number of different dolphins, so 49 different dolphin species, all the way through from the Boronam, which I'm going to be talking about, common dolphins, which you can see there in the middle, and actually killer whales. So whilst killer whales are have the name of a whale, they're actually the world's largest dolphins. So there's a huge amount of diversity that goes on, and lots of different niches that these particular dolphins fill, from tropical, temperate, inshore, offshore, true oceanic species to ones that like to inhabit areas like Melbourne where we are. And then introducing the whales. So there's 90 different species of whales, dolphins and porpoises all together, and they form cetaceans. So the whales are split into toothed whales and baleen whales. So in here we have a number of different baleen whales that use their big baleen plates and take big gulps of the water and the krill, and then and push that water out and obtain their food that way. Then we have toothed whales, things like sperm whales that actually have the teeth like the dolphins. So we have a huge amount of diversity of marine mammals that fill a huge amount of spaces, but they are top water predators, which means they sit at the top of the food chain, and they, have a number of different risks associated with that. Now, the topic of today is obviously talking about marine mammals in plastics. So we've seen, we hear these stories more and more often on the news, which can be quite distressing. So, in one of these cases here that I've got, there was a pregnant sperm whale that washed up dead on the sandy beaches near Sardinia, and the plastic filled more than 2/3 of her stomach. And there was huge amount of plastic within her stomach. The next case was another one of a Cuvier's beaked whale, and they uncovered, rice sacks and banana plantation style bags, shopping bags, thongs, a whole lot of things. And so we're seeing more and more cases, and that can be quite distressing. Even locally, it's more than just a local issue. This is a global issue, and with more and more reports about these plastics. That's something we've actually done to the environment. So this is what we're impacting on and changing their environment and putting these sorts of litter in, which is quite distressing. And but then, you know, something that we can actually do something about. You know, so, you know, why do we use plastics is one of the biggest things. Well, there's a lot of reasons why, and it's really hard to escape the use of plastics, and there's more and more, you know, effort going into doing that, but they're accessible. You know, you've all been down to the supermarket and you know, you've got apples, you're wrapped in plastic bags, and people putting them in plastic bags. You've got the use of pens, even in glasses like I'm wearing, in our laptops, with our toothbrushes. It's really hard to be able to escape that use of plastic. You know, they're durable and they're lightweight, but it's estimated that 8 to 12 million metric tons of plastics are entering our oceans annually. And it's estimated that 845 tons of cigarettes.
Hi there. I think we lost Dr. Kate's audio. Haley, can you hear us? Yeah, okay. We'll just pause 1 second. Dr. Kate, it seems like we're frozen. I don't know if you can hear us. We'll just wait a second. Technology sometimes is not our friends. Oh, it sounds like, oh, can people hear? One second. We'll wait for Dr. Kate to join us. Sometimes technology is not our friend, but that's okay. We'll just pause for a second. There we go.
Can you just see if we can get that right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm switching over to Haley's computer. Luckily, we're sharing the office space at the moment. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm so glad that you guys have the 2 computers and you're in the same office.
Yeah, so, I know.
Dr. Kate, you dropped off when you were talking about the different types of plastics.
Yeah, so the different types of plastics, so they are durable, and you know, they're in a lot of obviously with everything that we're doing. So we've seen those evidence of plastics in, and you know, there are many different types of plastics, which makes it a really, really big challenge in terms of being able to understand the recycling of those. And you can see with those types of plastics, there's all of those different codes, and so it can be quite confusing for people even wanting to do the same thing, you know, the right thing with recycling. You know, how we can actually you know, recycle these. And you know, a common misconception is that, you know, how long is it till it's gone? And we see these figures here, you know, it's, you know, 10 to 200 years for plastic grocery bags. There was some recent media on disposable or biodegradable plastic bags that 3 years after having them be buried, they're still completely functional as plastic bags. You know, cigarette butts 1 to 5 years. So people have been putting these timelines on the fact that, you know, how long until they're gone. But in actual fact, they're never really gone. You know, what's been created in this world with all of these plastics are still around in some form or another in the environment. And so we can see here with the water bottle, that water bottle, whilst it's a nice large, you know, plastic water bottle there, what actually happens over time is that plastic breaks down and breaks up rather than breaking down. So it doesn't break down till it's gone. It actually just creates smaller and smaller bits of plastic. Now, the issue with that is that those smaller bits of plastic then are more accessible through the entire food web. So you have the smaller animals, you can see there in the diagram with the crabs and things like that, that are able to actually uptake these smaller bits of plastic.
And then that goes through the food web. So you're seeing fish that have their stomachs compacted with plastic. There's lots of reports of the seabirds that also have those sorts of things because they're picking up these smaller and smaller bits of plastic. So it's not only things like the whales that are consuming these larger items like thongs and plastic bags and those sorts of things. It's actually this breakdown or break up of those larger ones. Oh, yeah, it has gone back online. That are able to, you know, really affect the entire food web now. And one of the issues with that is that it's not only just those little bits of plastic, but there's a new and emerging science having a look at the things that are leaching out of those plastics. So all the chemicals and the toxicants that are used to make these plastics are now leaching out into the environment. So this is a new and emerging study that we really don't know too much about, and trying to have a look at not only the impacts of the actual bits of plastic, but all of the chemicals that are associated with that. And of course, with marine mammals, they bioaccumulate. So in each of those levels of that food chain, the toxicity increases, which means when it gets to top water predators like dolphins and seals and whales, that toxicity becomes much higher. So this is a study we obviously have to have more of an understanding about. So, we spend thousands and thousands of hours on the water undertaking our marine mammal research, and we've seen firsthand. You can see in the image, hopefully we've got in the next slide, I undertook a necropsy. Unfortunately, when animals die, we try and figure out the cause of death. And in this case, this was a Stenobradonensis, a rough-toothed dolphin, and a little bit gross for this morning, but it really highlights. So in the top image there, you can see that's me opening up the stomach, and inside that stomach was 2 huge plastic bags. So it's not only having a look at the necropsies, it's also things like entanglements of our seals. You can see images there that were collected at Chinaman's Hatch, and then also of the entanglements with when we had our camera traps out, having a look at the impact of anthropogenic sources on these populations. So of that came the Marine Litter Project. We wanted to do something more. So as I said at the start of the thing, our philosophy is not just research for research's sake, it's actually getting that research out into the community, but also trying to help and do something about these issues in a positive way, because we can all get so I guess whitewashed or greenwashed with so much doom and gloom, but there are really things that we can do. So on these surveys, we were spending all of these hours picking up plastic bags and balloons and water bottles, and we really wanted to do something about it. So we all know that litter is an issue, but it can just seem too much to do anything about. And we recognise that sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect between our actions and litter behaviour and the effects on the marine environment. So in our particular area, our Port Phillip Bay catchment extends well up into the mountains, and so people necessarily may not make the connection that what they drop as a litter higher up in the mountains then flows all the way through into our bay. And so what we want to do is take that holistic, interactive approach to, inspire appreciation. So blessed to have these amazing marine mammals in our environment, and that can foster that connection so that people actually care about the environment and empower that action and rethink our attitudes towards using plastics. So we're going to focus over onto one of my favourite species. So this is a dolphin that's found in the bay, and we're going to play this video now. If you listen carefully, you might be able to hear the whistles of these amazing dolphins.
Dr.
So they are the beautiful dolphins off the bay there.
And this is one of my main focus species around a PhD on. And, you know, you get that connection when you look at the eyes of the dolphins and they're looking right back at you, and, you know, you can see that they're just as inquisitive about you. But, you know, whereas we can have a choice to not swim at the beach if it's too polluted, or we can, you know, choose to move to a different area. These dolphins are calling the bay home, and they don't get that choice that we do. But they're amazing species, and it's really something that fostered my my passion for the marine environment. But as I always get to this part of my thing, and these dolphins are actually described as a brand new dolphin species. So this was a part of my research that I undertook when I was doing my PhD, and I was fortunate enough to not only formally identify them and describe them, but I also got to name them. And so these are the world's newest dolphin, the Burranan dolphin, and that was following Aboriginal narrative for a word that was used to describe dolphins across the Kulin Nation dialect. And so the description of the species was an exciting journey for me, and it came through working in the field a lot and doing a lot of lab work with the DNA, and also having a look at their skulls. And it was described in 2011. So if we have a look at, I'm just going to take you on a very quick little journey about the Burranan dolphin. So the DNA was the main key. Are we seeing the DNA side? Then?
1 second. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Technology is just not being our friend this morning. So just give us 1 second. We are going to pull the slides back up. And I don't think we were able to see the video. I heard the audio, but we're going to go back to the video so we can show the Burranan dolphins one more time, if that sounds okay.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, we'll pull that up. And for everybody watching at home or in their classroom, we just want to say thank you for joining us. And I apologize. For some reason, again, technology is not being our friend. The cameraman feature is not quite working. And so the slides are looking pretty small, but we will continue to keep going. And we're going to show that video one more time. So here are the Burranan dolphins. Great. All right. We were able to see it that time. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Yeah. So there you can see how amazing they are and how inquisitive they are. And, you know, obviously getting to work with these dolphins all the time is what was really what inspired us to be able to make a difference in the marine environment. So as I went over, and you can now see the slide there, in 2011, I was able to formally describe and name the Burranan dolphin, which is super exciting. And that was primarily based on those 3 different lines or 4 different lines of evidence. And if we move across to the DNA side there, we can see what looks to be a whole lot of block colors and gel markings there, but essentially the genetics was the key, and we were able to collect some samples and then put these samples into a worldwide context. Now the next slide is a little bit tricky to understand, but this is called a phylogenetic tree, and in this tree you can see that there are a number of different dolphins that not only look different, but they have different DNA, and much like a normal tree, you can see that the branches lead off, and so the ones that are closest together are more heavily related. So we had our common bottlenose dolphin and our Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphin right in the middle there, and the big dark animal and the dolphin and the one below it. And so we were expecting that our Port Phillip dolphin would fall out somewhere in there, but as you can see, right up the top, Tersiops australis, it's falling out completely separately, not with either of those 2 bottlenose dolphin species. In fact, it wasn't even within the lineage of bottlenose dolphins, and it had other different sister dolphins that looked nothing like it. So that was the first indication that we had something completely different. I've now gone on and had a look at entire mitogenome and genomic areas, and these dolphins keep falling out really separately, which is indicative of the brand new species.
Dr. Kate,
So what do we,
sorry, one
yeah.
second. I feel like so our YouTube live is being a little bit tricky tonight, this morning, and it's showing you and you're talking. So if you don't mind, I'm going to toggle to our slides real quick, so that everybody watching can see the DNA and see that phylogenetic tree of the burn-in dolphins real quick. So we'll just be quiet. I'm going to toggle on those, and hopefully they'll show up. All right, great. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. So everyone's able to see that. And so now we're going to talk about what do we know about the dolphins in Port Phillip Bay.
Yeah, so what do we know about this new species? So it was described as a separate species in 2011, and what we know is that we have a resident population in Port Phillip Bay, and we also have a resident population in the Gippsland Lake. So these are two Victorian populations. We also know via their genetics that we have some burrow down in Tasmania and across in South Australia, but these are isolated and separate populations for the burrow. Now in Port Phillip Bay, we only have 120 resident burrow dolphins, and in Gippsland Lakes we only have 65. And these are forming two separate populations, which means they're really small, isolated populations. As you can see there, right, you can see this the Melbourne city skyline, and so these dolphins are living right under the noses of a major metropolitan city, which also puts them at that that threatening processes area, in that our impact has or our uses on land can have an impact on the dolphins in the water. So putting all of the evidence together, these small isolated populations of this very unique species living in these habitats, we've actually been able to have the burrow listed as endangered under Victoria's Fauna and Fauna Guarantee Act. And we're working towards having them listed under the EPBC Act, which is a national Australian act, and then the International Red List. So we're working towards protecting these amazing dolphins. It's fantastic we've been able to figure them out as a different species in 2011, but with such small populations, we really need to be doing everything we can to be able to protect them for future generations. And this is where I, always say in lectures or when I'm talking to people that, one drop can actually create that amazing waterfall. One person making a difference, or one person, having an action initiative can create another person doing that, and can move on to create this, amazing waterfall, which is what our aim is to do there.
Great, thank you so much. So we are going to head over to our marine champion, Haley, and she's going to see and feed us some questions, or feed Dr. Kate some questions. You ready, Haley?
Hi, everyone. It's great to hear you here again. Good to see all of you. So we have one question from Fair Oaks Elementary, and they ask, what did you do to become a marine biologist?
Well, that's a great question, and thank you for joining us online. So as I said at the start, my first career was in photography and design, and I started diving and got such a passion for being under the water and wanted to know more and more about it. But I also wanted to be able to do things to protect it. So I switched careers, and I went back and undertook a Bachelor of Science degree, and chose my subjects related to marine biology and zoology and evolution and genetics. And then I went on and did my honours year, which is sort of a bit like a master's year. It's an extension. It's a sole research focus year where I was looking at, I started to ask the question, what was the type of dolphin that we had in Port Phillip Bay? Was it the common bottlenose dolphin, or was it the Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphin? And of course, from there, my answer to that question was, well, it was neither. And so I continued my PhD on to really address the question about what it actually was, and didn't expect to find a new dolphin species out of it, and then also had a look at the conservation genetics and population structure of those. So there's a very long journey with lots of ups and downs, but lots of amazing moments.
Perfect. And then we have another question from Miss Barbara Singh's class at John Tonkin College. Do marine mammals always die if they swallow plastic?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is one of those things that it's not obviously a part of their normal food chain. So if you have you think about how you eat, and if you have a plastic bag or a thong or a bottle cap stuck in your stomach, not only does it make you not very healthy, but it also leaves less room for being able to have your normal diet and then get the nutrients out of those diets. So whilst it may not be one bottle cap or one plastic bag that can kill a dolphin, it does impact on their whole health as a general setup. And obviously it's not within their normal diet, and we wouldn't want to eat it, so we don't want them to eat it.
Perfect. Okay, now back to Jacqueline, just to keep this session running.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Haley and Dr. Kate and everybody for asking questions. We really appreciate it. We will have time set aside at the end for additional questions as well. So go ahead and keep submitting them on YouTube and through the Google form if you're on earthecho.org. I also just want to apologize. It appears that YouTube has done an update, so we are not able to see Dr. Kate's beautiful slides up close today. So what I will do after our presentation today is I will upload them to earthecho.org, where you're watching this video now, so you can see them in a little bit. But for now, we're going to head back to Dr. Kate, who's going to tell us more about the Marine Mammal Foundation.
Thank you. Yeah, so all the slides are on there, and you can always have a look at that. The beauty of technology that works sometimes and doesn't work other times. But it's really important to start the discussion. So, as I said, at the Marine Mammal Foundation, it's not just about research for research's sake. We believe, this is such a big issue, but it can be so overwhelming. But we really do believe that education and empowerment is something that will make a difference, which is why we were so pleased to be involved with the PlasticSeas expedition to really raise that worldwide awareness of this issue. But equally, it's one of those things that we do have the ability to be able to create change through that education, through empowerment, and through actions. And so some of the actions can be, going down and doing beach cleanups or street cleanups, or being aware around your school of the litter that's there, and having recycle bins. We are all very well aware of all of those sorts of things that we can do, but what we're really trying to advocate for is actually making the change before it gets to that point, and really having a big rethink about how we're actually using these single-use plastics. And by single-use plastics, I mean things like, plastics that we use only once and then we throw away, such as a straw, or we've got things like balloons, but even water bottles, or plastic water bottles, and plastic bags, those sorts of things that we can have different choices to not use. And so we're really not wanting to, we're wanting to have those cleanups, but not that band-aid approach of picking up what we're putting out there. Let's not put it out there in the first place. So there are some really great simple initiatives that we can do every day to be that one drop in the waterfall. So for instance, people, bringing their own water bottles along and refilling those. A lot of schools have those in place. They have new food days at school where people, you can use those containers to bring your lunch in all the time. Beeswax wraps, all of those sorts of things. So bringing your own water bottles, and for the adults out there that love a good coffee, which is, I'm definitely one of them, bringing along your Enviro mugs and your Eco mugs. With plastic bags, take along your green, Haley's showing my coffee mug there. Bring along your own calico bags, or make, your own bags out of old t-shirts that you no longer wear. There are options with those. When you go down to the supermarket, make the choice, be as a consumer, make the consumer choice to say, well, I'm not going to buy my apples that are in a plastic container wrapped in a plastic bag. You can get you can get the linen bags to put your apples in, or go to a place where you actually are collecting the fresh fruit and vegetables in other containers rather than plastics. And I think that's a really big key, is that as a collective, as a worldwide global collective, we can actually make that consumer choice. And when we are making that, then those big supermarkets and chains may actually listen and start adjusting their policies to not necessarily have those available, or to have better choices available. Things like balloons, what goes up must come down. So there are a lot of other different ways that we can celebrate, parties and things like that, with having bubbles, or just really make the choice, do we need to have balloons? So it's really just about rethinking those very, very simple steps. And, one person saying no to a straw, if everybody in the world said no to straws, there would not be the use for straws. So that one drop, that one choice that everybody makes can actually make a big impact on what we're putting in the environment. And it's also one of the main things that we talk about is next generation. There's a lot of people in our generation and the generation before that are becoming more familiar with recycling and those sustainable choices. But for the school students that are out there, it is, largely something that you can also do and be really active in your school and in your environment to get those messages out there. And, we've started our Marine Champions program, which is a program for youth that are not only particularly interested in the marine environment. We learn all about dolphins and whales and intertidal zones and the marine space, but we also talk about sustainability issues. And I know that Tia's out there today with her school and in her environment group watching, and she's one of our Marine Champions, and Harry is one of our Marine Champions leaders. And this is a really great way for young people to get involved and to really make a big difference. And we've done things like art shows and using what we've collected on beach litter cleanups to create beautiful artworks to inspire people to make that difference. We've done litter cleanups, we've had a look into tidal zones, but what I'm most proud of is that the students themselves developed a Marine Champions Sustainable Steps Guide. And this is basically for the students to be able to go to their schools and say, we want to change what's in our cafes and our tuck shops and our cafeterias to not have single-use plastic like straws and water bottles. We want to have bamboo, cutlery, or make sustainable choices, but perhaps need that voice or the know-how to go and approach their school. So when you do watch back over the slides, you'll see that our draft of our Marine Champion Sustainable Steps Guide, and these amazing young people have created this guide based on their own experience and their own wants and need to make a difference. I'm super proud of them for doing that. So as I said, the one drop can create a waterfall, and we can make a real difference to, what we're doing. And I'll finish with the motto for the foundation is together we can ensure what we do today creates a better tomorrow. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with our research and with our conservation initiatives and with our amazing youth programs.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Kay. And I agree that, if we all do one thing, I have my water bottle here. I actually have my Marine Mammal Foundation tote bag hanging up by my keys at the door. So when I go to the store, I remember to take it. So all those little things really do make a difference. And I just also want to say that we also have a video in the PlasticSeas module highlighting Haley and the work that she does with Marine Champions. So if you have more questions about that, or you're interested in showing that to your students or seeing that yourself, you can check that out on our website. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Haley, who has a couple more questions to wrap us up this morning.
Perfect. So we've got one question from Marilyn on YouTube saying, why does so much plastic end up in the ocean?
So that's a great question, and I think it's a number of different combinations. It's either incorrect disposal of the litter itself and the marine debris, so dropping things on the street or letting things fly out of your car, or in some cases you will see if there's been a big event somewhere and bins are overflowing. If the bin is overflowing, it's not going to take more litter, and then that litter just is around on the road. And or around the parkway. We have things like, you know, the stormwater drains, and after big events, rain events, that litter that is on the streets and in parks and up in our waterways all flows down into the oceans, and so it's the incorrect litter disposal in a lot of cases where people are just not thinking necessarily or connecting to what they're doing with their litter. It comes down to businesses as well, where there is incorrect litter disposal or that thinking about what they're doing with that. So the majority of those things that are washed from land-based sources down into our oceans through either a personal choice to incorrectly dispose of it, or by, you know, an accident, or just not following proper processes with disposing of litter and waste.
Awesome. So we've got another one coming in through. Besides their DNA, are there any other characteristics that make the Burren end dolphin special?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have lots of different aspects that make the Burren end dolphin different. So the DNA was the first indicator that they were something completely different. And we've had a look at, there's been a recent study looking at the mitogenome, and they've actually dated the split of Burren to the other species that are over 1 million years ago. So, you know, quite some time ago. But we also had a look at the skull morphology, and whilst we didn't get a chance to go into that in a lot of detail, you can jump on our webpage. And so the skull morphology, we took 44 different measures across the entire skull, from total length to really tiny, minute characters within the skull, and found that they were different from the common bottlenose dolphin. We also had a look at the external morphology, so what they look like on the outside. So these guys have that stubby little rostrum, and they have a falcate or curved dorsal fin. They have really large flukes. And the coloration, you see the white that extends over the eye. So there are a number of different external characteristics that made them not look like the other two either. And we've also had a look at their diets now, and so their diet is very different. They're inhabiting different areas. So there's those different lines of evidence, and we're now extending the research to have a look at their acoustic repertoire as well. So what they sound like and their communication. So there are a number of different things that make the Burren end dolphin different from the other two bottlenose dolphin species.
Very nice. One more question. What is the #1 plastic item you find afflicting marine mammals the most?
Our #1 item, that's a great question. From the litter cleanups that we have done, it's cigarette butts are a huge issue, and I'm very pleased to say here in the Bayside area, where we are and we have our offices and we do our research, Bayside City Council has actually moved to eliminate smoking in these public places and along our beach to try and eliminate that threat. The other thing in terms of volume and count is actually remnant bits of plastic. So rather than a full plastic bottle, it's all those tiny little bits, you know, plastic bottles from pegs, from anything, you know, from buckets, from lids, all of those sorts of things that break down into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces that you actually can't then formally identify what source it's come from. So definitely remnant bits of hard plastic and remnant bits of soft plastics and cigarette butts are definitely those things that we're finding in terms of count. In terms of impact, obviously we've seen the images of these larger whales consuming larger plastic bags, and even, you know, toilet lids, and you know, so many massive items that were also impacting on these larger animals.
And I think we've got time for one more question, which is, which marine mammal do you think is most often affected by plastic pollution, and why?
That's a really great question. I think that in terms of the impact that we outwardly see more often that gets the news coverage, and what we're seeing are these larger whales, like I showed earlier. You might be able to go back through and have a look at those slides of things like the beaked whale and the sperm whale, humpback whales that have, you know, huge amounts, you know, tons of litter inside their stomachs. Obviously, that's an accumulation over time. They just didn't come across one big garbage patch, even though they're out there and just eat a whole lot of stuff. This is something that's accumulated in the stomachs of these animals over time. And then obviously that impacts constantly and consistently on a daily basis with the amount of food that they're able to eat. And it's not just the marine mammals. There's Jen Lavers is doing great work on seabirds, and you know it's quite distressing. But you see these birds that are feeding the smaller remnant plastic bits to their chicks, thinking that they're a food source. So it's a really tough question, and I think the answer is that we put it out there, and so we need to make the choices to collect it and to get it out of the environment, but then also not to put more in there.
Well, great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Haley, for joining us today, our Marine champion and one of our youth in action from Expedition PlasticSeas. And thank you, Dr. Kate, so much for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick so I can show the slide of the dolphins. So the audience, and again, we apologize for the update. So here you can see the burn-in dolphins in Port Phillip Bay. And like Dr. Kate said, together we can ensure what we do today creates a better tomorrow. So that is what the Marine Mammal Foundation strives to do. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you everybody for watching. If you head to earthecho.org after this event, I will go ahead and upload all of Dr. Kate's slides so you'll be able to look at them as well. So to wrap up today, I wanted to talk to you about some of our upcoming events that we have going on with EarthEcho. And the first is we will be having a virtual field trip with the Orange County Water District in California on Thursday, May 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that will be for our schools here in the US, and for those watching in Australia and other parts of the world. All of our YouTube videos and virtual field trips are recorded and live on our YouTube channel, so you can watch them at any time. Come back and watch them over and over again if you choose. Again, this virtual field trip was part of our Expedition PlasticSeas, which took place in October of 2018 in Melbourne, Australia, around Port Phillip Bay, where all of those beautiful burn-in dolphins and other marine mammals like the Australian fur seal live. We took 25 educators to all around Melbourne, actually, to look at the impacts of plastics on the animals, the environment, and much more. The PlasticSeas module has 4 exciting videos hosted by Phillip, who is our founder, and documents our plastic journey in Australia. We also have STEM career close-ups with videos, STEM career close-up videos with the experts that we met on Expedition. And that photo there, you can actually see Dr. Kate and one of our fellows, Miss Singh, with the bottlenose dolphin skull and the burn-in dolphin skull. So Dr. Kate was talking about that, and I would encourage you all to head to the Marine Mammal Foundation website after this event and read more about what makes the burn-in dolphin so special. We also have youth in action videos highlighting the amazing youth in Australia that are working in their community against ocean plastic pollution. So there you can see Lucy and Shalise, and we also have Haley featured in a video about the Marine champions with the Marine Mammal Foundation. Our 25 Expedition Fellows, the teachers that went on this journey with us, worked together to create STEM design challenges that are available on our website for download for teachers anywhere in the world at no cost. So you can find out about nurdles, microbeads, how to create a smart trash bin, and so much more. Head over to earthecho.org to check those out. We also want to thank our sponsors and partners for the expedition, including the Marine Mammal Foundation. We couldn't have done the expedition without all of you, so thank you so much. We encourage you all to follow along with EarthEcho. You can email us at education@earthecho.org, sign up for our newsletter, follow our adventures on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we would also, again, like to thank the Northrop Grumman Foundation. They sponsor our expeditions program and also continue to generously support EarthEcho International. So thank you for all your support. Without you, this would not be possible. So thank you all for joining us today. Again, we apologize for the technical difficulties, but we will get those slides up on earthecho.org for everybody to view. And thank you so much to Dr. Kate and Haley and Ms. Singh's class for joining us all the way from Australia. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.